J-Dubb here. Recently, YouTuber Nicole Arbour made a controversial video regarding the term fat shaming. Essentially, her argument in this video was that overweight people should be made to feel ashamed of themselves in order to goad them into thinness. In response to this, YouTuber Megan Tonjes uploaded a teary-eyed video discussing how she had been hurt by this video. What I want to talk about in my video is a victim who is constantly abused and mistreated and made to feel as if they're invisible. Logic. Okay, so let me start here. So we live in this reality where there's this thing called cause and effect. When a person makes an action, there are effects to that action. When we don't like these effects, we call them consequences. If I drop this glass on the floor, it shatters, whether I wanted it to or not. If I didn't want the glass to shatter, I could argue with why I don't think the glass should have shattered, but that doesn't make it not shattered. Now, Nicole Arbor has presented us with a scenario where she has made an action and is trying to evade consequences through the use of logical fallacies. And we all know how I feel about logical fallacies. Personally, I think one should be required to pass a test on recognizing logical fallacies before they can use the internet. There are several logical fallacies that are commonly used on the internet that I've been wanting to discuss for some time, and Nicole Arbor has been generous enough to provide a vehicle for me to do this. Essentially, these are fallacies that are commonly used by people in order to justify themselves, either to escape consequence or to justify themselves in their own minds, so that they can feel just and righteous. So one idea presented by Nicole Arbor is this idea that if it offends people, it's the truth. Basically, they're taking the concept of the truth hurts or the truth can be hard to hear and using it to justify themselves. The fallacy that's being used here is what's called an association fallacy. Essentially, the logic here is that if you see a dog with spots, then anything with spots is a dog. In this situation, oftentimes, truth is hard to hear. But this doesn't mean that just because a statement offends people, that it's the truth. Sometimes the truth is wonderful to hear. However, in the case of Nicole Arbor's video, there are no truth or fact statements being made. They're all opinion and perspective statements. Nicole Arbor is using this fallacy in order to present her personal opinion as truth. So, you either share her opinion or you're wrong. Another thing that keeps getting thrown around is the phrase freedom of speech. This is a phrase that gets thrown around quite irresponsibly with no understanding of what it actually means. Under the US Constitution, a US citizen is guaranteed the right to say whatever they want without being punished by the government. And there are other governments who also have this in their constitution. And you know what? This is a good thing. I am glad that Nicole Arbor has the right to make this video without being punished by the government. But freedom of speech does not protect you from the consequences of what you say. I can shout freedom of speech till I'm blue in the face and that glass is still shattered on the floor. Actually, it's not, because it's a plastic glass and what you heard was a sound effect. And I dropped it on this for extra cushioning. Oh, it has spots, it must be a dog. So first of all, if I go on a tirade meant to demoralize someone, I have the freedom to do this. That doesn't mean that I should. Now, the US government can't do a thing about it under the Constitution, but angry people who are not the US government can say what they want against me. And they too are protected under freedom of speech from penalization by the US government. Two-way thing, it goes both ways. You can't voice your opinion about what I said because I have freedom of speech to voice my opinion. If I invite you into my house and you start insulting me, I can kick you out. You can't claim freedom of speech because I'm not the US government. And another thing on the topic of freedom of speech, I saw one person comment that YouTube should ban Nicole Arbor for bullying. Now, whether this is the case or not is another discussion, but a supporter of Nicole Arbor responded to this with, no, they can't because she has freedom of speech. Again, YouTube is not the US government. In fact, YouTube is an international corporation. A very major portion of the people who use YouTube are not from the US. In fact, this brings to mind a discussion from a recent video I did. Thing is, turns out there's actually other places that aren't America. If you're discussing whether or not somebody should be banned from YouTube, you don't go by the US Constitution, you go by the YouTube terms of service. And another thing that keeps getting said in this situation that I see or hear used to justify things a lot, which isn't really a logical fallacy, but doesn't really follow logic. The "I was only joking" excuse. There should be no consequences for what I say because I was only joking. Wait, hold on now. Were you speaking the truth or were you only joking? Because you seem to be using both arguments here and they're kind of conflicting. The reason I made this video is because there's a lot of people on the internet who's, they get a sense of power over other people and in some cases a paycheck for demoralizing people and then justifying their demoralization of people. Oftentimes to the point of convincing themselves that they're in the right for doing it. So I thought I'd use the Nicole Arbor case to deconstruct some of these arguments. So, that's it. See you next time, J-Dubb out. But then as I was researching this stuff, I started remembering things like, oh yeah, I used to wear pre-distressed vintage jeans. I used to wear Skechers boots. Oh yeah, that stupid puka shell necklace fad. That was totally 2000s.